Stuart Young entered the Parliament in 2014 as an opposition senator, and today, 10 years later, wears the hats of Minister of Energy and Energy Industries, Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Member of Parliament for the constituency of Port of Spain North St Anne's West, Chairman of the People's National Movement, and more recently, Acting Prime Minister. Acting Prime Minister, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much for taking time to be with us today.
Good morning, Neil. Thank you all for having me. It's a great privilege and an honor to be here today.
The Prime Minister, this is a Catholic news program, and we know that you're a Catholic and you're practicing Catholic. How has your faith helped you through all of these things that you're doing?
I have to say, and as I was telling a colleague this morning, I've always believed I am simply a vessel of God. So whatever God's will, let it be done. That is part of my morning daily ritual prayers, asking him for the strength to be able to cope with whatever it is that his will is for me and for it to be done in a satisfactory manner. Faith has played a very important part for me, Neil, but I've also learned having to be able to intermingle throughout Trinidad. And I was fortunate. I grew up not only with a Catholic background, but my mother predominantly, until she converted to Catholicism later on in life, the whole family is Muslim. So I got that exposure as well. And Trinidad is a multifaceted society where just last night I was at a temple in Monroe Road with our Hindu brothers and sisters celebrating a very important part of their annual religious calendar, the celebration of the life of Lord Ganesh. So, correct. So, you know, Catholicism has been a great foundation. It is a faith that I still practice, recently having to take both of my sons through their confirmation programs and this type of thing. And I try as often as I can to make it to Mass. But every day, prayer is part of my ritual. And I learned a long time ago, and it fascinates some people. I was once the head altar boy at St. Mary's College, and at a certain period in life, I actually thought I would go on to be priesthood and this type of thing. But I learned at an early stage in life, and I believe it may have been from Father Toba at the time at St. Mary's College, or it might have even been here at Living Waters, that prayer is really how you live your life. So that is what I try to do. So faith plays a very important role, because very often I say, God, how am I going to get through this?
Thanks very much. But let's dive into the thing. Recently, we've heard of the country's gas production being at its lowest. BP has sold some of its assets. Stock has signaled that it's the potential of laying off its employees. There's the uncertain political situation in Venezuela. Energy remains the lifeblood of this country. Ought the country to be worried? Are you worried? Are you concerned?
It is impossible to predict the future. Let me give you a good example. If you had looked at the global energy landscape, in the last 6 years, the United States was not a huge exporter of oil and gas. Right now, the United States are the largest exporter in the world of both oil and gas. Things can change very quickly, very dynamically. We have worked hard as an administration. I personally have been involved, as has the Honourable Prime Minister, in ensuring we have a future in our energy sector and gas production. I am very satisfied with the work that has been done. So let's touch on what you've raised briefly. The BP Perenco sale is absolutely a good thing for Trinidad and Tobago. That is what you would expect at this stage of our country being a mature province. BP is a huge international global operator. They've been working these assets that they've now sold to Perenco for decades. They are a higher cost operator than Perenco is. Perenco has a lot more cost efficiencies. So as I was explaining last weekend to some people, if BP does something at, say, $100, Perenco, because of its being small, how nimble it is a cost-efficient operator, may be able to do the same task at $50. So their spend of $100 is going to get you double the amount of productivity. It's as simple as that. And I met with Perenco this week. They are very excited. I am excited. I think it's a good thing for us in Trinidad and Tobago because they are going to take risks. They're going to do workovers. They're going to go after stranded gas in those fields that a large operator like BP would not be able to make it cost effective for. So that's an absolute good thing for us and something I'm happy to see, because otherwise it could have meant the shutdown of those assets. That's not happening. Right. Perenco came into Trinidad in 2016, and they have been able to extend the life of all of the assets they've gone after, and they've had tremendous success. So they're going to do this with these fields that they've purchased from BP as well. The gas production is all for Trinidad and Tobago. So that's a win-win-win. Win for BP, win for Perenco, win for Trinidad and Tobago. The other issue that you raise with certainty of the future and the geopolitics, geopolitics are uncertain. You just look at what happened overnight almost with the election build-up in the United States with a change of candidate and how things shift. So what you have to do if you're doing your work properly and use the art of diplomacy, which is what the Honourable Prime Minister and myself have done, we have been speaking to people on both sides of the aisle in the United States, both on the Republican side as well as on the Democratic side. We remain engaged. Just this morning before coming here, I was engaged in setting up a meeting with one of the most important people at the US State Department for Energy Affairs globally. And we've agreed. They had asked me if I was coming up to Houston next week because I was carded to speak at one of the largest gas conferences. I couldn't go. And we've agreed that we will meet next week. And that is to continue to stay engaged as the US State Department, the person or one of the people in charge of energy. And they know us by first name. And that is the type of relationship we've built there. Venezuela, we continue to maintain a very good relationship with the government of Venezuela. And what we've achieved there for all of the world to see, a 30-year license for Dragon, 30 years, a 20-year license for the Coquina field. And what I could tell the population today is right now where BP is doing the seismic over the Mannequin field. This week, I negotiated and got, with the assistance of Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, who is now the Minister of Energy in Venezuela as well, got their permission to cut out some red tape to get that same seismic vessel over on the Coquina field. This is record time. Right. We signed that license in July, at the end of July this week, and here we are in the middle of September, and there's going to be seismic performed. I met with Shell this week. Work is proceeding full speed ahead on the Dragon field. We're now looking, well, Manatee, they've already taken FID on, but the Dragon field in Venezuela, we are looking now at the dates for the survey vessel that has been retained to go over the Dragon field and making arrangements, and I'm hoping that I myself would be able to go out on that vessel over the famous Dragon field. So when you see companies like BP and Shell, who are global players, pushing full speed ahead, it augurs well for us in Trinidad and Tobago. Can I tell you what I'll be doing at 1 o'clock this afternoon with any degree of certainty, if I'm honest? The answer is no, I may have plans. And that is with everything in life. But I am satisfied as it currently stands. We've done the work. We as a government, the Prime Minister and myself, remain engaged with the decision makers. We have done the work on both sides of the aisle in the United States election, and we, like the rest of the world, are looking on to see what happens. I can also tell the population that we've also reached out to both sides there. We've done the work in Venezuela. We've secured licenses. We continue to have our OFAC licenses from the United States to pursue the gas in Venezuela. All of our eggs, I'll say, Neil, are not in the Venezuelan basket either. Manatee is a field totally in Trinidad. It's going to be the largest development of a hydrocarbon field in decades. Shell, as I said, took FID on that. We've had successful bid rounds, both onshore, shallow water, deep water. We've completed in record time again with BP and Shell the seismic work over those deep water fields. Shell told me this week they're hoping when BP finishes the work that has been done on the Coquina Mannequin field, they are going to take the ship straight away before it goes off back into international waters to do some seismic work over shallow water. So you're seeing these things as the BP, Perenco sale and connection. We're seeing recently with one of our small operators, Trinity, there's actually now a competitive bid by Touchstone and by a local company owned by the Brashes. Those things cannot, no matter what the naysayers say, anyone in the energy sector sees only positive there, especially when we've been doing this for over 100 years with oil and decades with gas.
So we, at the moment, the population should not be overly concerned
I don't think the population should be overly concerned, but yes, you always have a level of concern. Am I personally concerned? I am satisfied that we as a government have been responsible and all of the work to be done has been done. Just this week, the energy sector are telling me they've never seen the short amount of time frames for the going out for a bid round, the award of the bid,
so
the blocks, etc. We've been able to collapse. So same thing when I came in a few years ago that the energy chamber was calling for less reduced times. Voila, it's done. So those things are good. But let me tell you something, Neil. We as a population have a serious choice we're going to have to make very soon. And that is where my concern lies. Because the population needs to decide who can successfully manage this. All of this, if managed properly, is going to bring our production right back up from 2027, go all the way home. So the population needs to decide who out of those that are going to put themselves forward in a general election, because it needs to be spoken about, are going to be elected to manage that. You saw what happened in the period of 10 to 15 when not a single gas contract was negotiated. I have given you a very small snapshot of the exact opposite, not only negotiating here in Trinidad, but in the field of geopolitics, which has not happened before, and the success we've managed to bring.
Let's touch a bit on that geopolitics and the outcome of elections. There is a fear some people have that if Donald Trump were to win the U.S. presidential election, that could impact significantly and to our detriment on the arrangements with Venezuela. Is that so?
But I have just said very clearly, and I'll repeat it because I was trying to speak in a sort of diplomatic language, we've been meeting with the Republicans as well as the Democrats.
Right.
So this is not a government that has put all of its eggs one way or the other. We've done the responsible thing. We've remained engaged with both sides of the aisle in the United States. There are certain people that both sides would listen to, etc. We've had conversations with them. I can't predict what is going to happen, but I'm satisfied that we have done the hard work. We've remained engaged with decision makers on both sides of the aisle, and we look on, like the rest of the world, towards the results of the U.S. politics.
One of the things that the government has done in terms of restructuring and shoring of the energy sector, we are told, was the restructuring of Petrotrin.
Well, two things, correct. Sorry to cut across. The restructuring of Petrotrin.
And Atlantic
LNG. Let's touch on Petrotrin first. So when we came in, because what you have had as well is a reduction in your oil production. Petrotrin's refinery, what was the focal point that it centered around, is built to take 175,000 barrels of oil a day. Mid-2000s, it was up over 100,000. That dropped dramatically because it's a mature province. It becomes more difficult to get oil out. When you pull oil out of the ground, it's not being replaced by anything. You have to go after more prospects. We're a small province. So when you come in the 2015 period, it had dropped down to about 70,000 barrels of oil a day. So you have to make decisions now. And of course, when the price of oil, crude oil, you literally are buying crude oil. If it's 70,000 barrels of oil a day, you're buying 100,000 barrels of oil on the open market, to keep the refinery going. The economics started not to make sense as production went down, as costs went up, because you also were not a cost-efficient operator. The cost of lifting a barrel of oil had become uneconomic because of the type of arrangements that existed in Petrotrin. So there were a lot of difficulties you're facing. When the country started to face billions of dollars in losses, as well as the looming $850 million bond that had to be paid off, and a $750 million bond that had to be paid off, and you looked at the economics, you then had the accountant saying, hey, you've been carrying about $4 billion of debt on your books. You need to write that off. You need to impair it and get it off the books. All of those things became the perfect storm. You had to take a difficult decision. Why would we want to close down the refinery if we didn't have to? But if we didn't do it, it would have meant financial collapse, not only for Petrotrin, but for the whole country, because it was so critical to the country. It would mean downgrades. All the international Moody's, the Standard & Poor's, all of them were threatening that if something happened, the government would have to step in. And those are billions of dollars at a time when the price of oil, of course, remember, by 2016, it had gone down to $20 a barrel. Oil prices were collapsing, etc. and it just didn't make economic sense. What did we do? We restructured it. Yes. And I believe we restructured it very successfully. You saw Heritage once again published just a few days ago over $1 billion in profit after about $9 to $10 billion in revenue. They've been paying their taxes. They've been paying their royalties. Paria is doing the same thing. Not a day have we had any disruption in our domestic fuel supply at the pumps, at the airport with aviation fuel, for ships that need fuel. All of that has gone seamlessly. We have had another RFP on the refinery. The cabinet will meet very soon on those things. The evaluation committee has completed its job and is ready to present to us. So those are the things that are happening, very positive. Just on the gas side, the restructuring of Atlantic LNG has never happened anywhere else in the world. I've said this openly. The Prime Minister said this openly. You fact check it. It is a fact. We managed to do that. What that did is it gave an extension of life of investment for Trinidad and Tobago. Because what it literally means, one of the things we negotiated is access for third parties. So non-shareholders could find ways now to process their gas at Atlantic LNG and try to commercialize and try to get via contracts, cargoes of LNG, etc. So now people are looking to invest, including in the region, because if you get gas there from elsewhere, you're literally processing it. And there are not many countries in the world that have LNG facilities. So all of these things have happened and it's set up well for the future and currently as well.
And that's a good place for us to end at this point in time. But we hope you'll join us again, perhaps after the budget, to talk about more energy matters.
I'll be pleased to. And may God continue to bless us.
Thanks very much for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.